I've been on the Fediverse since way before it was cool, way before any talks of Blue Sky using Nostr, way before Elon Musk even thinking about buying Twitter, back when it was still fairly known amongst really techie people, but basically nobody outside of that had even heard of it. And ever since the Rocket Man, the Fediverse has gained lots and lots of traction, recently passing 1 billion total posts. Right now, there are over 22,000 active servers, and even though there has been a bit of a slump in Mastodon users since that original takeover, it's still way higher than it ever was. With all that being said, Mastodon and the Fediverse is not without its problems, as described in this blog post by Justin Garrison. Mastodon is doomed. Now, I do think the title is a little bit extreme. I don't think Mastodon is doomed, but the author does make some fairly good points, so I still think it's worth a read. In an ideal Fediverse world, people would run personal servers, or a community would run a server for members. Honestly, if you just cut it here, that would be ideal, but most people are just never going to run a server. The reality is, people don't want to pick their favorite community, running an instance is expensive and complicated, and owning your data isn't a product feature. Now, he does expand upon all three of these, but I will be reordering some of the blog post because he jumps around even more than I do. Communities are not siloed independent bubbles. People are Venn diagrams of lots of communities and interests. Selecting a username can be difficult, deciding which community you want as part of your identity, even if you can change it, is too much. The act of choosing a server has kept more than a few people away from Mastodon. And honestly, I feel like this is one of his stronger arguments. I've seen a lot of people get really confused about how they're supposed to join Mastodon. Where do I join? Do I really like free software? Maybe I join Fostodon. Do I really like gaming? Maybe I join mstdn.games. Maybe I'm also a VTuber. Do I join VT Social? Maybe I want the entire world to be blocked, so I join mastodon.art. Or, you're an artist. Either way, you get the same result. And because most people just don't want to make that decision, and they've been sort of acclimatized to the way social media should work from years of using MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these different things, a lot of people just gravitate towards mastodon.social or mstdn.social or mastodon.online, these mega communities where lots and lots of people join. And that's without getting into any of these smaller communities for individual topics. Maybe it's for, hey, I like oil painting. Maybe I like Souls games. Maybe I like, finding shells on the beach. Surely, someone is going to make a server for each of these individual topics. How do you pick which one you're going to go to? The answer is most people just don't. Now, I know there are going to be some Fediverse natives who are like, I have 13 different accounts on 4 different services, and that's great for you, but that's just not the way that most people want to interact with social media. They want the one account where they do everything from. But let's say you pick a server. It's well established, it's been around for a couple of years, it has a lot of users that recommend it, and it seems like it's going to be around for a very long time. Let's say mastodon.technology or mastodon.lol. Even so, your account just may not be safe. Hopefully you don't end up on a server that isn't secure, has trouble scaling, or shuts down for a variety of other reasons. For example, Mastodon.technology shut down because of instability. This happened around the Elon Musk Twitter takeover. They had a massive spike in users, the maintainer didn't have time to work on it, and basically was like, I can't do anything. If I hand it to anyone else, now some other random admin has access to all this data, and that's just not something you wanted to do to the users. Or you have Mastodon.lol, which the maintainer shut down because he was getting harassed because he wasn't banning people playing Hogwarts Legacy. One thing to know about ActivityPub is if you want to move your data to a new instance, the old one has to exist. If the old one is compromised or unavailable, too bad, your data is basically gone. These were established and really well-run instances that gave their users a lot of heads up about what's going on. Many others out there, especially some of the smaller ones, will just vanish one day with not a word being said, and your account is just gone. Hopefully, wherever you are, you don't end up on a server like that. But going back to scaling is hard and expensive. Even one of the best run instances at Hatchoderm.io had trouble scaling last year, with 30,000 users and over $5,000 worth of equipment. They were able to migrate over a terabyte of data to DigitalOcean, which kept them afloat, but at a cost not many can afford, more than $1,000 a month. 30,000 is a lot of users, but keep in mind, Mastodon.social has 223,000 active users. I don't want to know how much they are paying to run that. You can probably do a bit of maths and work it out for yourself though, but asking some big instance maintainers, the author found that it's roughly 0.041 cents per monthly active users, so roughly this number. But it's very important to note that most people are not paying that kind of money. Most people don't have a 30,000 user instance, let alone 223,000. Most people would struggle to get like a couple hundred users. Maybe some of the bigger small ones have like 1,000 users. But most of the instances out there are going to be, a handful of people, 10, 20, 30 people, maybe you and your friends, or maybe even a solo instance. And this is where we get to some of the disagreements when he gets to running your own instance, mainly because he starts to contradict himself. At one point he says, if Mastodon is to be the poster child of the Fediverse, it needs to drastically simplify the requirements to run and maintain an instance. There should be a single binary, self-updating, single-user instance. But earlier in the blog post he says, like WordPress, the best way to use Mastodon is to pay a company to run it for you. Mastodon instances will fail to get updated for months at a time until individuals decide it's not worth their time or $10 per month. Yes, it would be nicer if setting up your own Mastodon instance completely by yourself was easier and was lighter. This is why a lot of people out there actually like Pleroma. But over on the Mastodon documentation on setting up your own Mastodon instance, most of it isn't even about setting it up yourself, because Mastodon understands that most people are not going to do this. The first bit is like, okay, VPS, blah, 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 all these terms you need to know. But then it goes to, hey, just pay someone to do it. It's just easier to do that. And then under that, go set it up on DigitalOcean with our pre-built image. It's all the way under that where it gets to setting it up manually by yourself, because most people are just not going to go through those steps. And yes, for those bigger instances, it would be nicer to make things easier and all that fun stuff. Same reason why people don't usually run their own Minecraft server. Sure, you can go and do it, and it's not that difficult. But why? Just pay someone a little bit of extra money, and then you never have to think about it. I just don't think making it simpler is that big of a deal like the author makes it out to be. The author also goes on to say something that just doesn't make any sense. You can of course run your own server, just like you can run your own email server, and you will be blocked from the broader public discourse just the same. There will be no way for large instances to trust and allow every individual instance. The moderation work will be too much, and they'll end up trusting only large, established instances. I don't know where he got this idea that the major instances are running whitelists, because they're not. This is Mastodon.social. As we can see down the bottom here in moderated servers, Mastodon generally allows you to view content from and interact with users from any other server in the Fediverse. There are exceptions that have been made on this particular server, and they have a blacklist. It's a very long blacklist, but they have a blacklist nonetheless. This is mstdn.social. If we go down the bottom here, they also have a blacklist. Once again, fairly long blacklist. And this is mass.to. They also have a blacklist. They have a very, very, very long blacklist, but even so, blacklist. Even some of the loony instances like Mastodon.art, which will ban you for creating memes about someone without their permission, even Mastodon.art, they have a blacklist. Their blacklist is even longer, but it's a blacklist. I don't know where he got this idea from. The instances just won't federate with you if you host it yourself. That just doesn't line up with reality. I'm sure there are some instances out there that are like this, but none of the ones that people know about. But moving on from that, let's say you decide to run an instance, and it's not just a single user instance, it's a multi-user instance. Beyond scaling concerns is the legal responsibility. If you host an instance for other people, you should be prepared to invest time documenting and training moderators or shut down like the Financial Times. Have a scroll through these lists. And besides, the spam and maybe some politics stuff and all that things in here, just have a look at how many of these are banned because of, child-related things and various other illegal things that shouldn't be on the internet. There is a lot of instances out there that get completely out of control. Some of them intentionally, some of them with poor moderation. But hey, you can't forget the problem of unencrypted DMs either. So, if you try to bring someone on to help you and they want to do something they shouldn't be doing, well, they now have access to all of that data, and that's a problem. So you need to bring on people you can actually trust. And the biggest problem with running something on an open network is administrators are not paid for their work. Maybe your instance accepts donations, and maybe that gets you by, but a lot of them are not going to be making anything. And very few instances have plans to continue operating if a single person leaves, runs out of money, or loses interest. I can imagine the headline now where someone offers to help run an instance, but in reality, they only want access to user DMs and private keys. Just like WordPress from the 2010s, many instances will be abandoned and never upgraded. That's why a lot of WordPress is from the WordPress site now. For me, the final nail in the Mastodon coffin came from a Dakota podcast interview with Eugen Rocco. I think that's possibly close, the CEO of Mastodon. Throughout the interview, it's clear that Eugen has no plans for monetization beyond donations and running instances for interested users. While I highly respect Eugen's technical abilities and drive and determination to build such an ambitious product on top of ActivityPub, I believe the vision is flawed. And yes, monetization is a really serious problem, but I just don't know how you could do it effectively in a system like this. Other systems that have been doing it relatively well are crypto-based systems, and I know a lot of people out there are really not a fan of crypto, so you sort of just gotta throw that idea away. And a lot of people don't like advertising, so that probably won't work either. There are lots of companies investing time to integrate with ActivityPub, but almost every integration is a status/blog/picture update mechanism. It's a more expensive and questionably better RSS. Is Tumblr going to save Mastodon? No, but Tumblr posts and comments will be consumable as toots. This is a big part of what Blue Sky is currently doing with Nostr. Now, the fun thing about Nostr is there are bridges between Nostr and the Fediverse, so, Blue Sky is technically a part of the Fediverse as well. It has nothing to do with data ownership, identity portability, or federated networks. The ideals of Mastodon and the Fediverse will be lost once established products use it. The Mastodon people hope for is doomed. I know there are certainly hopes the Fediverse will take over the internet and become the social media platform that everybody is using. Have all of this stuff integrated together, your account can move between PeerTube and the Instagram one I'm forgetting, and Pleroma and Mastodon. But I personally don't mind it staying this niche thing that, a lot of techie people are using. Like, it's always going to be good for me because everyone using Linux is on the Fediverse. but I can see why you would be disappointed if you don't like the direction that Twitter is going and you want something to replace that. I think Blue Sky is probably going to be what ends up doing that if anything possibly can, but even so, it's so ingrained, removing that is going to be really difficult. But keep in mind, MySpace was replaced by Facebook, so it's certainly possible. As I said at the start, I don't agree with the title, and I don't agree with the sentiment that Mastodon is doomed. But I do think there are a couple of points in there which definitely do hit the nail on the head, and are concerns I have seen from people, especially people that aren't as familiar with how Mastodon and the Fediverse works. But I really don't know how to address some of them without completely re-engineering the entire system. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Maybe you have some better insight. Maybe you like the way that the Fediverse works right now and you don't think anything needs to change. I would love to know. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you liked the video, go and like the video. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, Scribes, the LiberaPay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and go join... I was going to give you an instance to suggest, but I didn't have one. Go pick an instance, randomly roll and grab one. Join the Fediverse.